Alright guys, back. Last video of the year. This is it. Last one, then summer. Even though some of you started summer March 20th or something. Anyways, alright, so we're going to continue from what we talked about last week with equations. We're going to add a little complexity here. If you can get to all the stuff we're doing this week without help, you guys are prepared for next year. If you guys have trouble with this stuff, take these topics that I've broken down for you, go to Khan Academy, get a textbook, whatever it is, and spend some time this summer reviewing. These are things you should have mastered in 7th grade, 8th grade, and even this year a little bit as we reviewed them to prepare you guys for what's coming next year. Okay, so last week we talked about simplifying, doing PEMDAS at times, evaluating expressions where we plug in numbers. And we talked about one-step and two-step equations. So now we're going to go to the next levels of this. So this week we're going to talk about 3 levels. So level 1 is one-step and two-step equations. That's basic. You have to know how to do that. At the very, very minimum, that's level 1. But also on level 1 is what we call distribution, solving equations, where we may have seen expressions with distribution, but maybe not equations. So remember, when we distribute, each person gets candy from that house. Okay, now one thing that came into play was negative signs, as some students did some work. A negative times a negative is a positive, and a positive times a negative is a negative. Okay, so don't forget your signs. Alright, so in this problem, alright, so the first steps we're looking for, by the way, are parentheses. So we're looking to distribute first, right? That's step 1 in these equations. Alright, so and the P is the parentheses of PEMDAS. Alright, so in here we're going to go 4 times x, which is 4x. 4 times 2, both of them are positive, so that's going to be a positive 8. Okay, now, last week we talked about this on a 2-step equation now. We're at a 2-step equation right here. What are we doing with this number? We're adding 8. So when you move it across the equal sign, you have to do the opposite. So we're going to subtract 8 from both sides. Okay, now, 1-step equation now. All right here, this is the 1 step. 4x equals 8. What are we doing to x? We're multiplying it by 4. So how do we undo that? You divide by 4. So divide everything by 4, and we get x is equal to 2 is your solution. Okay, is your solution. All right, so that's level 1 with parentheses. Let's take a look at now level 2. All right, now level 2 is a little bit more difficult because we're going to combine distribution and combining like terms, and then going through the 2-step and the 1-step all the way to the end. Okay, so this is a level 2, a little bit more complex. So we're going to multiply these parentheses out. So on this side where the 8 is, we don't touch it yet. We just leave it alone. So we have a negative 3 times x minus 2. So remember that negative 3 has to get multiplied by both parts. So negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Don't forget to show your work, right, bro? Oop, I forget. All right, and then negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6. Some of you guys got this mixed up on some of the questions last week because you forgot negative times negative is a positive. All right, now we go to this side here. Positive 4 times x gives us 4x. Positive 4 times negative 3, positive times negative is negative 12. Okay, so we did our parentheses, our distribution, right? That's step 1. Second step is combine like terms. By the way, distribution, combine like terms. Do opposite of the numbers, and then do opposite of the variables. Those are the 4 things I had on my board all year. Under the equation depot, you probably stared at 100 times and never really thought about. Yeah, think about that one for a second. All right, so combine like terms. We're combining x's, only the x terms. Minus 3x, positive 4x. Minus 3 plus 4 is just x. Then we have positive 6 minus 12. That's going to give us a minus 6. And then that 8 is just kind of going along for the ride. All right, now last step, we have to move that negative 6. We want that thing across the equal sign. So if you move a negative 6, we have to add it. Okay, so in this case, we would get 14 for your answer for x. Okay, so now in this step here, we distributed, we combined like terms, and in this case, we did opposite of the number, and then technically the last step is opposite of the variable, except our variable just had 1. All right, so not all the problems are going to be like this. You might have a different thing here. What if this were 2x instead of x at the end? Well, then we would divide by 2. Okay, so these last 2 steps are 1 step and then 2 steps. So going back to last week, 1-step equation is the very last step on everything we do. 1-step equations. The step before that is a 2-step equation. Okay? All right, now let's take a look at this a little bit higher level too. Variables on both sides. So the name of the game when you have variables on both sides, we need the variables to one side equal sign. This is stuff we did all year. You guys should know how to do this. All right, so my rule, Mr. White's rule, is take the smallest x term and we're going to move it across the equal sign. So that's a positive 2x. We want to move it, we're going to subtract. Okay, now we have all the variables on this side. We need all the numbers to the other side. So we're going to do opposite of that number to get it across. So we're going to subtract 10. All right, now one thing to keep in mind, almost all year, all our solutions were positive numbers. Well, when you go to algebra, you're going to have positives, negatives, zeros. You're going to have all kinds of crazy answers. So don't be afraid. Just trust your numbers. You can always plug it back in. Do 3 times 14 plus 10. What do you get? Evaluate that expression. Do 2 times 14 minus 4. Evaluate that expression. See if the numbers are equal to each other. That's called checking your work. Okay? All right, last set of problems. What do we do when we use all of these things? Well, I need a bigger board than what I have. So here we go. One last example for you guys. And you probably want to pay attention because this is one of your practice problems, by the way. All right, first step on the left side. So we want to kind of look at this thing. On that side, do we have any parentheses? We don't. Okay? But can we combine like terms? We can. So let's do that on the left side. All right? So we have 1 and 5. That gives us 6. Now, I like to write the numbers at the end. You can keep it in the front if you want, but just the way a lot of common math work is done, the variables come first, then the numbers. So that's just how I'm used to doing it. So I'm going to put it second here. All right, we have 8p and we have minus 4p. That's going to give us a positive 4p. So on this side, when we combine like terms, 4p plus 6. Okay. Now on the right side, we have parentheses. So what do we use here in this case? We're going to use distribution twice now. Okay. So be careful of our signs. So this neighbor gives, 2 times p. 2 times negative 3 is a negative 6. Okay. All right, second part. This negative sign with the 2 goes with that 2. So negative 2 times p is minus 2p. Minus 2 is positive 4. Okay, so we distributed. Now, on this side, we've already combined terms. On this side, we need to combine terms now. Okay, so not always does the steps equal on the left and the right, so you just follow the procedure. So distribution is first. Can we combine like terms second, right? So in this case, 2p and minus 2p cancel out. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. In this case, they're gone. Okay, so we're left with here just a negative 2. Minus 6 plus 4 is negative 2. Use that calculator to help you out. Okay, so we get negative 2. So over here we have 4p plus 6 is equal to negative 2. All right, so now we're on our 2-step equation here. This is a 2-step. Now we're going to subtract 6 from both sides. Okay, and now this is our 1 step right here. And we'll divide by p, or 4. And remember, a positive divided by a negative, and a negative divided by a positive is always a negative number. Okay, all right, so there you go, guys. Walks you through it. Look to distribute. You have parentheses. Do we need to distribute? Can we combine like terms? Combining like terms is only done on one side of the equal sign. That's what I said last week. Watch the video if you didn't. Okay? Then, if you're going to move something across an equal sign, we have to do opposite of what that is. Okay? If you move a number, we have to do opposite of that number. If you move a variable, we have to do opposite of the variable. All right? Don't freak out. Do these problems. Try it. Use this as feedback for you guys on if you actually need to review this summer. All right? Have a great summer and a great high school career. Enjoy teaching you guys. I'll see you around.